For 17 seasons, the Ricmotech Sports Car Series featured the Mazda Global MX-5 car and, of course, the Ford Mustang as well. But with the advent of the new Classic Sprint Series, we have new cars and new stars in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. And again, fantastic field of drivers set to go. The new cars, the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, and new for today, coming into the second round of this opening season of the new look Sports Car Series, the BMW M4, and of course the TCR category cars as part of the program as well, and the Audi R3 is that spec vehicle. Looking forward to what should be a tremendous day. It's the second round of season number 1 of the Sports Car Series. We're here at the Detroit Grand Prix circuit, Belle in Detroit, Michigan, and it's going to be a fantastic day today. Joining me as we get set to go for a 60-minute race, Alessandro Delladone. And Alessandro, we've called a bunch of these Ricmotech races together, whether it be the Classic Sprint Series, the GT Challenge. We've called a race already here at Belle Isle. This is going to be a very interesting day of competition with the two different categories. Of course, the debut of the BMW M4 and an absolutely massive field of cars getting set to go here today.
Yeah, hi Rob, hello to everybody, wherever you are in the world. We are set to have a great race here at Detroit, at the premiere, I think, for the BMW GT4 in any official series, as far as I know. So I'm really happy to be here. And we have also a huge field of 44 cars attacking this very difficult racetrack. So it's gonna be a race we are definitely looking forward to, because GT4s and TCR have very similar pace, and we are ready to have a big fight here, Rob.
We'll have a look at the conditions for today. About 27 degrees Celsius trackside. It's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The track length here at Belle Isle, 3.76 kilometers, which equates to about 2.35 miles in Imperial, 14 turns. And I think one of the big things, Alessandro, is this track significantly different to the opening round of the year, which was of course, the road course at the Daytona Motor Speedway. It was an interesting event there. This one, though, fraught with peril, concrete walls all the way around. You simply can't drop a wheel here. You can't make a mistake when you're running the street circuit in Detroit.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be very fast, but also very consistent, because any little scratch with this damage model we have on all three cars is gonna cost you big time. So definitely it's gonna be a compromise for whoever is gonna take the win in both classes today.
Anytime you have the mixed categories as we have here today, you're going to have drivers having to deal with traffic, whether it's the faster GT4 cars working up on the TCR cars, or the TCR drivers looking in the mirrors a little bit to make sure that they're, number one, potentially able to use the quicker cars to pull away from drivers in front of them, maybe hold them back in a corner here or there, or at least not to get themselves taken out. We've seen that a number of different times. Well, folks, let's have a look right now as we get set to go racing here at Belle Isle. Let's have a look at the track guide of this fantastic racetrack.
Welcome, everyone, to Detroit, Michigan. Yeah, we are right across the river from downtown here at the Belle Isle Street Circuit. Very well-known course, been around since 1992 and has provided some incredible racing over the years. As we come around the final corner of turn 14 and head up underneath that flag marshal stand and get ready for the braking of turn 1. Let that car roll to the right. You want to get a wide exit here to set up that nice smooth entry for turn 2. Right out to the wall to get as much momentum as we can down the straightaway here of Central Avenue. This will take us down to turn 3. Of course, a lot of overtaking opportunities in this brake zone here. Coming down into this very difficult right-hander and very narrow, to say the least. And it gets tighter here even as we come into turn 4. Right-hander that's going to carry you right out to the walls there. Same here as 5. Hug that inside, nice and smooth, easy on the exit, and then up into turn 6. One of the most trickiest corners on the track to get right. A lot of undulation on that exit. That car loves to get loose there. This will bring us out onto Strand Drive, the longest straightaway here, if you can call it a long straight, here at the Belle Isle Street Circuit. A lot of beautiful landscaping around this track as we head down into the fountain section. Around turn 7 into turn 8 here. A lot of undulation. As you can see, that car just takes a beating through this section. Round 9 into turn 10 here, then into the right-hander of turn 11. Very, very tight corner. Big dip there coming off the corner that'll certainly break that traction. So easy on the throttle coming out as we set ourselves up for turn 12. Another tight right-hander on exit. Slight right of 13, easy back to the throttle, and then wide open as we head down the final straightaway here that'll bring us right back around to that start-finish line. There you go. There's your fast lap around Detroit's Belle Isle circuit here in Detroit, Michigan. Thank you for being with us.
In his debut race in the series, won in the second category. So a great week for the Canadian drivers that obviously will try their best to repeat also here in Detroit. We had very great battles all throughout the race in both categories, with Matthew Warner finishing second and John Ford third in TCR, and we had also a great battle with DJ Alessandrini and Aaron Om closing up the podium in GT4. Mike Dem played out the strategy really well.
Yeah, indeed. We saw the drivers take a much different approach to the pit windows. So that was kind of interesting in both the GT4 and TCR categories. One of the big storylines, of course, early in this TCR race at Daytona for round number 1, when Caleb Lavender and Chad Parker were running at the front of that pack about 15 minutes in, coming through the final corner of the track, heading to the tri-oval. Lavender pushing aggressively on the back of Parker. Those two drivers got together. Parker out of the race with the damage. Lavender getting a drive-through penalty, which dropped him well down the order. He comes in here 13th in points right now, well behind both Henderson Knox and Matthew Warner, as you said, P1 and P2. But Lavender, Alessandro, we've been talking about him a lot in the other categories too, because very strong coming off a victory in Barcelona as well in the Ricmotech GT Challenge.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of these drivers racing in different categories, and they are really fast everywhere we go. Caleb Lavender for sure is one of the drivers who is really consistent, and also today is already leading the TCR group in this qualifying session. So we've seen these drivers take plenty of challenges in the last few months, and I'm sure that also today in this tough condition with a very hot track and not a lot of space for mistakes, it's gonna cost them a lot of energy, both mentally and physically.
15 minutes on the clock. Drivers needed to put their 4 laps in here sometimes in those 15 minutes. And as Alessandro had mentioned, a pretty quick lap thus far for Caleb Lavender. Mike Dam leading the way right now in the GT4 category, 136.958 best time so far for Mike Dam. Not far back, young Elvis Rankin, a 136.99, a 137.42 for Robert Hartley. Travis Schwenke, 137.44, and Paul Gibson, a 137.89. We, of course, will wait on Aero Na. I'm expecting him to be able to roll in here and drop down a quick lap. So look for Aero to jump his way up to the top here momentarily. Otherwise, as we will continue to look through the field, we'll see these drivers really attacking the racetrack. And Alessandro, that's one of the things about this facility. You don't want to make a mistake because coming out of turn one, so many corners, out of one, out of two, the wall creeps up so quickly, especially with some of the rises in the pavement here on this racetrack. But there are parts where they have curbing actually out, and actually some exit curbing as well, as opposed to being just the wall. And we've seen drivers drop a wheel.
Sound muted.
The track here, but the curbing is actually pretty high.
Yeah, for sure. We have plenty of challenges around this track. As you were saying, the pavement is very, very bumpy, so these cars are gonna go all over the place in this 60-minute event. But also the curbs are really, really tough, so it's very easy to make just a tiny little mistake. And as you were saying, also, if we have an incident with this damage model we have on these three cars, it's gonna be interesting because there are parts falling off and there might be roadblocks. So we always have also race control in this championship. Tonight it's gonna be a very busy day for them too.
So let's have a look at the event that we have coming here, a 60-minute race. Fuel strategy probably going to be early lap of maybe lap 13 for the GT4 cars. We're expecting about 37 laps to be the distance for GT4 based on lap times here. So the window about lap 13, it will open. Lap 24, you're able to go that distance, about 24 laps on fuel for the GT4 drivers, and you've got to come to the pits. You got to make that stop. Of course, a shorter stop in terms of not having to get a lot of fuel into the car, and then you can go the final 13 laps from there. For the TCR cars, of course, a bit slower overall. We're looking for them to probably be able to go around 35 laps for a total distance here today. That'll open the window on lap number 12 and close it at lap number 23 to get to the end of it. And Alessandro, it's interesting, man. We've watched so many races you and I have called here on the Ricmotech series, the different series rather, and we've seen a lot of drivers make much different approaches. We've seen guys come in early. Most recently, we see some of the TCR cars and those cars maybe wait a little bit later to the end, especially when drivers are running together. But at Daytona, the top drivers in GT4 were all over the board. Mike Dam came in early. Aeronam waited till late. You never know what these drivers are going to do.
Yeah, indeed, and also today I think we're going to see plenty of different strategies because with so many cars on the track, we have 44 entrants today here in qualifying with both classes, so it's going to be interesting. Even though we have a less differential delta between the two classes because we've seen in practice and also here in qualifying some GT4 drivers are right on spot on the pace of the leaders of the TCR, so also we are gonna have this issue, let's say, in this race.
Well, one of the things, of course, anytime you come to a street circuit like this, a temporary circuit, it's worrying about the tires. And, you know, being told, especially one of the interesting things is with the new car coming into the program here. Of course, at Daytona, all we had in the GT4 category was that Porsche 718 Cayman. Beautiful car, and as Alessandro detailed quite a bit throughout that race, it's just a fantastic car to drive, punches a big hole in the air for aero and for drafting. We add in the BMW M4, and that's going to make things really interesting because in getting feedback, Alessandro, from the series and the drivers, it sounds like the BMW pretty rough on the front tires where the Porsche is a little tougher on the rear tires. So that could make things interesting, the way drivers will be able to handle these particular cars.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be very interesting. We don't have a lot of BMW drivers today, but still we will see a lot of different places where the two cars are going to make a lot of speed in different ways around this track, and it's gonna be also interesting to see how these two cars differentiate on the tire management, because obviously tires are gonna be very important in 60 minutes. I don't know how many drivers, especially in the GT4 class, are gonna take tires, considering that it's gonna take a lot of time. So for sure it's a lot of unknowns coming into this race, mostly for the BMW drivers, but we really appreciate them choosing this car, because it's giving us definitely a lot to talk about, and this car is also look beautiful.
Jared Jewell in the number 413, the fastest driver in the BMW today, 137.21, but about a full second behind Aeronom. We expected him to step things up. He comes into the race in second in points, having been taught by Mike Dam at Daytona, so they flip-flop where they run right now. Aeronom with the fastest lap time, a 136.20. Dam just 45 thousandths of a second back with a 136.25. Less than a tenth back is Elvis Rankin, just 12 years of age, in the number 54 machine. He'll be in third right now. Robert Hartley and Jared Jewell rounding out the fast five. Paul Gibson now in sixth spot. Cameron Bidwell in seventh. David Payton, the Canadian, in eighth. Travis Schwenke and Randall McGrew rounding out the top 10. Still about 3.5 minutes remaining in this 15-minute qualifying session. Lucas Ford on track now in the Lucas Racing BMW number 76. The American driver currently running. Where's Lucas running on the racetrack here right now? Down in, I believe, the 31st position overall. So he needs to find a little more speed. But again, the BMW drivers, as we know, kind of getting a feel for this car. In the TCR category, Caleb Lavender right back in it again. And Chad Parker, P2. Alessandro, those two drivers that kind of got together at Daytona, they're both well down the order, but looking pretty strong right now to claw back some points. First and second in the TCR category.
Yeah, indeed. A long season, Rob, so for sure they are gonna try to come back and make up for the mistake they did in Daytona. And today it's gonna be an eventful race for sure, but if you start from the back, it's gonna be very interesting to see how they will approach the race. And we remember also we have different starts for both categories, so if hopefully nothing happens in the GT4, TCR will
right.
have plenty of space to navigate through eventually some debris we will find on the track.
Drivers in the GT4 category will take the official iRacing start. Those in TCR will start further back and get the call to go green from the steward. Alessandro mentioned the fact that we are very early in this season. Indeed, season number 1 for this new look Ricmotech SCS Sports Car Series. Daytona was, of course, the opener back in the first weekend of May. Here we are now the first weekend of June for round 2 at Belle Isle. Round 3 will be Laguna Seca at the end of the month. July 20th for the Watkins Glen course, round 4. They'll go to Montreal after that. And following that, the road course in Indianapolis, the famed Lime Rock Park, up to Canada for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in early November, late November at Phillip Island, and then wrapping things off in the middle of December, final round. Round 10 will be Sebring International down in Central Florida. Tremendous track, of course, another icon of American motorsports. Minute and a half remaining in qualifying. Aeronom still leading the way over Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin. And as we scroll down to look at the drivers in the TCR category, Andrew List has worked his way up to P1. Eric Violette and Brandon Whitworth have their Audis 1, 2, 3.
Just 1 minute left in qualifying. Almost all drivers already scored their lap times. We have still Kevin Ford, who is actually in 27th position right now in his brand new BMW M4 GT4, taking his last 2 laps, but he might be also only able to get a lap in.
Well, Kevin, one of the administrators, Alessandro, so he's always in with us here talking, doing the drivers' meeting, and kind of jumps out of the drivers' meeting and puts on the virtual helmet and gets behind the wheel. Doesn't get a chance to get a lot of seat time in, but he's got so much experience. We'll always see him kind of working his way up through the field.
Yeah, for sure. He's always very busy putting this great show for the drivers and you watching at home. And obviously this is taking him a a bit of time and not probably having a lot of seat time as he wants to, but for sure still one of the historical driver of the championship, and always tries to make a good show for everybody. Even though last time we were here in Detroit in the sprint car in the classic sprint car series, we had he had a little bit of trouble.
Little late getting qualifying underway, but the checkered flag has flown. And here is your lineup. I'll take the drivers in the GT4 category. I'll pass it over to Alessandro for TCR. Aeronam steps it up once again, a 136.201 fast time for the driver of the team Bushfake number 78 machine. Mike Dam, Daytona winner, starting on the outside of the front row. Row 2 will be Elvis Rankin alongside Robert Hartley, while row 3 has Jared Jewell, the fastest driver in the BMW category, starting alongside Paul Gibson. Cameron Bidwell and Tyler Shiflett will be on row number 4, while the top 10 completed by David Payton and Travis Schwenke. Further back, Randall McGrew and Matthew Gosh will be on row number 6, while Cameron Martineau and Clint Vigas will be on row 7. Row 8, Tony Chow in the number 68 alongside Chris Thorman in the 60, while row 9 has Jacob Beasley and Greg Mack. On row 10, Arthur Chan in the 50, starting on the inside, P19 alongside Steve Daniel, while Jordy Fike and Jeff Jacobs will be on row 11. Row 12, Leon Wright and Brennan Huran. As we go further back in the field, Trent Brown and Derek Holland will occupy row number 13. Kevin Ford, as we said, wrapping things up in the 27th position, while Mitchell Peak will be on the next row. We'll go a little further back and pass it on to the TCR drivers. Let's have a look at the TCR field, Alessandro.
Yeah, and released in the 61 is the TCR pole sitter for D2D Esports. Alongside is Eric Violet in the 89th teammate. Brandon Whitworth and Caleb John Lavender are in row 2. Chet Parker and Matthew Warner are closing the third grid. Edgar Sanchinelli, Anderson Knox, Bobby Childs, and Ken Ladd close up our top 10 with Evan Wood and Tyler Lugo Vickery closing up our grid with Michael Key in the 98. 47 drivers today taking the green flag here, Detroit. We are ready to go.
2.35 miles, as I had said, 14 corners, Alessandro, and we are talking about 47 drivers. We talked about how important the pit stops are going to be. Good in lap, a strong pit stop, hitting all your marks, and of course then the out lap on the colder tires. Tires are going to be tough as well. We know that the BMWs will burn off the fronts. The rears, of course, for the drivers in the Porsche 918 Caymans. But I'll tell you, another big issue here is going to be lap traffic. It is definitely going to play a major role. Drivers working their way around right now. We look to go green momentarily. Drivers are underway, I believe, in the GT4 category. And indeed, they are racing. Drivers going into turn number 1 for the first time. Aeronam will tuck the number 78 machine up onto the curb. Mike Dam giving him lots of room on the inside. Drivers pretty good, though, coming through 1 and 2. Over the rise here. Car gets very light in this part of the racetrack. Drivers have to be smart. Not too much wheel on it. And they'll come down for the first time. Long straightaway into that right-hand turn number 3. Top 3 or 4 drivers already getting a single file, so a great start there. And again, Aeronam with the lead. Let's have a look at the TCR drivers. They've got the green as well, and we are underway with Andrew List taking the lead here. He's on the outside, but a big move to the inside. Yeah, the driver from the outside of the front row taking over the top spot in the category. So again, he falls down just a little bit. I want to say that's Violet now. Alessandro, he has gone to the lead in TCR.
Yeah, great start. All drivers kept it clean. We didn't see anybody having issues through the first few corners, and great battles in both GT4 and TCR, with all the drivers staying now in single file, with Aeronam taking the lead from Mike Dam in this opening lap.
Andrew List just not getting quite as good a start as Aeronam, as Aero was able to get up on the curb to the inside of 1 and essentially outrace Mike Dam to the exit of turn 2, and that's how you grab a lead there. Drivers like Aeronam and Mike Dam, you know, they understand that this is so early in what is going to be an hour race. You don't want to make a mistake here on the opening lap, so just settle in. Other drivers potentially struggling in the back, but I think we had a couple of really clean starts in both the GT4 and the TCR categories. You can see a little different line coming through turn number 1. Mike Dam a lot wider on the exit there. That's allowed Elvis Rankin to close. Oh, driver spinning. Driver around further back. The number 3 going around. That is Robert Hartley around on the exit, Alessandro, of turn number 2.
Yeah, indeed, a big spin for Robert Hartley. I think we saw just in the background before switching the replay another car spinning, but here we see the replay. There might have been some contact, I don't know, but that car is super loose there. It's very, very tricky, and anything can happen. With cold tires, especially on this track, it's very, very tough. And we are back now in the TCR.
Yeah, if you saw that replay, you obviously called it. It looked to me like it was a Jewel that got a little offline coming through turn number 1 and 2, and I think that Hartley was thinking about an over/under to try to maybe pinch it on the exit to get a better run because Jarrett was all the way over. Jewel was all the way over, and he's trying to do the over/under on him. And when you pinch on that corner, I talked about having too much wheel coming over the rise there, and the car kind of just got away from him. And again, tough one for Robert Hartley as he falls down through the field. But again, the TCR driver is putting on a good show right now. Violet leading the way. Andrew List slotting into that second spot. Brandon Whitworth now runs in third. Again, Caleb Lavender, I talked about Caleb. He and Chad Parker was the driver that he got into it with the Daytona. Lavender needs to get back here. He needs some good points here in Detroit to kind of start clawing his way back. Fell well down the order after the drive-through penalty in Daytona. Of course, he'll have just thoughts of just slowly trying to work his way back forward.
TCR cars suffering a bit less cold tires than the GT4s. Meantime, we see side-by-side racing, some contact, pedal to the floor to keep it straight, and both drivers keep on going. Great save by both drivers. Andrew List goes back into P2, and now side-by-side racing again, door banging, proper touring car racing, and is still Andrew List in front of Caleb Lavender.
You like this, don't you? Little old touring car.
Oh,
These guys are going door to door. What happened back there was Andrew List had a bit of trouble coming through one of the corners, and Brandon Whitworth attacked immediately and went down to the inside. They were side by side coming through the corner. I'm not even sure which corner it was. It might have been 12 and 13. But both drivers kind of got sideways, and it was actually Whitworth that got the worst of it. And that allowed Lavender to jump up into third spot. Whitworth actually dropping down to P5, but kudos to him to be able to hold on to it. All of this action behind them, though, Alessandro, has given Eric Violet a chance to pull away to an over 2-second lead right now. It's actually Warner trying to put some pressure here on Lavender as well, but Caleb Lavender getting real racy. He'll come down the inside. Lavender, a bid for P2, side by side over the curb, but a good run around the outside as they roll into turn 7 and 8 here, and Andrew List holds them back again. All of this hardcore racing for second is benefiting Violet as he's pulled out to a 2.6 second lead.
Yeah, these guys are fighting really hard, locking bumpers, bump and runs through the corners. Andrew List is actually under investigation with the 09 for these contacts in the previous lap, so we will see then what the race commission will have to say about it in the next few laps. But Violet for sure getting a big jump here on the group while they fight in these narrow tracks. If you are side by side, you're going to eventually lose a lot of time. It's not going to be easy for them to catch up to the leader of the TCR. But here we are back in the midfield with our GT4 class, where all these Porsches running one back behind the other, fighting for a 9th place with Gosh and David Payton here in the 64 car fighting, and a big dive by the 67 that goes up the curb, and not yet. Ooh, we have some contact.
Yeah, there's contact there for sure, and that was Randall McGrew, who got up on 2 wheels up on the right side and hammered the outside retaining wall. I'm surprised he's able to continue as he has. This is some pretty aggressive racing, Alessandro. We're only 6.5 minutes into a 60-minute race. This is going to be a long one for sure. We're well outside the pit window for either of these categories. Lap 12 for TCR, lap 13 for the GT4s. That's when we'll open the pit window. And just seemed like some really aggressive racing. A lot of, we got drivers trying to make moves, but it seems to me like some really aggressive defending happening early here as well.
You know, Rob, this is a very tough track, and if you want to get by people, you have to dare and take chances. I don't know if it's really worth it to take it right at the start of the event, but we have such a big field, and obviously people maybe are not really happy about their qualifying efforts, so they are gonna try to get as much position as possible right now when all the field is really packed, as we are seeing here also in TCR now, all single file, but I don't know for how much time we will see single file racing up here, Rob.
Continuing to watch the fight here between Caleb Lavender going at it here with Andrew List. Lavender's going to try to make the move to the inside of turn number 2 again. He's down deeply to the bottom. Book it. Lavender through to take over P2, but List has a look back to the inside coming out of turn number 3 over to turn 4. Can't quite get it done, and indeed Caleb Lavender's got into the position. The battle of that contact that we saw with Randall McGrew was with, I believe, David Payton, and that particular incident was reviewed. No action taken by race control. So again, just side-by-side racing contact between those two drivers that sent McGrew up on 2 wheels. He trying to get himself back underway here again, but continuing to get a focus here on Caleb Lavender, who runs P2, the leader in the category now, out to a 4.5 second advantage. Eric Violette by himself on the racetrack, open track, of course, because the only drivers in front of him are going to be the tail end of the GT4 field that had a split start anyway, so a big opening for him to be able to work his way through. So Eric Violette looking really good here right now in that number 89, because, of course, Violette coming in the category as well. Where was he in points? Well down in 12th, Alessandro. So if he's able to come out with a win here, that would be a huge jump in the points for the driver of this Audi.
Yeah, indeed. He wants definitely to bounce back from Daytona, and he's doing a very good job. Obviously, he got a lot of help by the guys behind him, fighting really hard from the start. And when you are side by side fighting for position on this twisty track is obviously gonna cost you a lot of time. As we are seeing here up front, instead in the GT4 class, they are a more single file. They are just taking their time, making sure they get tires temperature, because GT4 cars tend to struggle a little bit more on the cold tires. They catch you off guard a little bit in the first few minutes. Seems these top 3 drivers have checked out from Jared Jewell in the BMW in 4th position. They have opened up 5-second lead. So let's see if they can keep it or when they will hit traffic. As you can see on our track map, now they are still in clean air, but it's not gonna take long before they hit some lap traffic.
Watching David Payton, the Canadian, the number 64 D2D Esports Porsche, trying to put a lot of pressure right now on Matthew Gauche in the number 22. That is the battle right now for that 9th position. Gauche holding on to it. He made a little mistake a little further back into that last lap, and I think Payton figured he was going to be able to make a move. There's the 68 running wide. That's Tony Chow. That's going to allow one of the drivers behind him to potentially move forward, Cameron Martineau. Again, this is a great battle. Look at the long line of drivers we have, 9th all the way back to 15th. Leaders in this group separated by just over 2 seconds now. Arrow Nam, Mike Dam, and Elvis Rankin, as Alessandro had said, really running those clean opening laps. No need to battle each other. They know we have a long way to go in what will be a 60-minute battle. But here we have David Payton continuing to look to the inside to try to find a way by Gauche. Again, right behind them, ready to fight out as well, as Clint Vigas behind them. Behind Vigas is Jacob Beasley, Tony Chow, Cameron Martineau, Chris Thorman, Arthur Chan. Look at that group of cars behind here. The Cayman GT4 beautiful race car. Of course, joined here today in this particular run and through the remainder of the season by the BMW M4. But pretty much what we're seeing here, other than the car of Jared Jewell, Alessandro, it is the top, I want to say 16, 17, 18 cars. Other than that one car, Jewell, that one BMW, it's all Porsche.
Yeah, you know, Rob, this is a very new car, so obviously drivers need time to adjust their driving style, to understand how the cars behave in this particular track, which is definitely not an easy track to start with. And it's a big unknown, so plenty of people decided to stick with the Porsche GT4. Maybe from the next events we will see more drivers switching over to BMW, as the car will be used in official events and people will understand how the car is working. Meantime, we have communication from race control. Car 44, unsafe re-entry, drive-through penalty. Car 44 is trying to find it in our live timing with all these plenty of cars on the track today. Not an easy task for us here in the booth.
I believe that's Chris Smithshield getting a penalty there, as you had said. Watching the scrap here as well, because David Payton, Alessandro, finally able to get by. Made the move by Matthew Gosh. Shall move David Payton now into the 9th position. He's got some open racetrack in front of him as well. Payton significantly behind Tyler Shiflett right now, so he'll have to kind of dig in to see if he can't work his way up to try to battle 8th. You can see Shiflett well up the road there, getting ready to make the turn down in turn 12 and 13. So a good run there for David Payton. Put the pressure on, kept it up, and didn't relent, and that allowed him to kind of stretch away. This is now the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. We talked about the BMW M4 coming into the program here right now. That is, again, Jared Jewell. He's getting chased down by the 301 of Paul Gibson, who has Cameron Bidwell right behind him. So this is 4th, 5th, and 6th in the GT4 class. And now, Alessandro, what kind of racer are you? Are you a guy, if you were in this race, would you have stayed with the Porsche? Would you have been the kind of guy that would want to try to develop the BMW? Would we see you out there in the BMW right now?
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Something different, right?
People know me as a crazy driver. When I'm in the car, I tend to do crazy attacks, crazy moves. When I have to decide which car I'm gonna use, I tend to use always one car which is not really used in the service, because you need to stick with some cars throughout the season which are not really supported by the community. And for sure, I have a new car, I go out with the new car and test it out. This is a track maybe where the BMW might shine a bit more than the Porsche, to be fair, because it's probably a more stable car over the bumps and the curves. And as you are seeing here, meantime, we have a contact car. Matthew Gosh in the 22 got spun around, and now it's another tricky task, get back on track without hitting anybody.
That's tough, isn't it? That's Matthew Gosh. Remember, he put up a fantastic fight to David Payton, and he just got spun around. I think the race control is going to look at this. We'll see a replay of that. That's over in turn number 8. That's that box section in the middle of the racetrack. The right-hand turn 7, the left 8, 9, and 10. You can see him coming through here, right behind him, the 71 machine of Clint Vigas. And as they come over here to turn number 8, Vigas just getting into the left rear and spinning him around. You can see that Ghosh was on the power in the 22, kept the throttle on, and he has fallen well down the field now. So a tough one there for Ghosh, who was a strong runner. And I find it interesting, Alessandro, you talked about you're one of the guys who likes, having the different car. And I'm the same guy. I want to be in that different car. We called the GT Challenge last Monday, and Caleb Lavender runs the Audi R8. Well, I think all the other drivers, I believe, on the Mercedes-Benz, right? They're all in the Mercedes car, where he's like, one of maybe one or two guys in the Audi. Of course, he's in the Audi right now, just the one single car in TCR here in the sports car series. But I like the fact that he's one of the only drivers on the Audi in the GT Challenge.
Yeah, Rob, we missed a key factor in these last few laps. Violet got caught by Lavender and the whole TCR field. He got a 5-second lead at the start of the race, and now he's back with the whole TCR front runners.
Indeed.
He might have caught some traffic, but Lavender and all the guys behind till Warner, which actually set the fastest lap this time by in the TCR, are stepping up their pace, and now we have a 5-way battle for the lead.
Indeed, we thought it was going to be kind of a walk away for Eric Violetta. Well, at least not say a walk away, but at least he was going to probably lead his way all the way into the pit window, because that's where we are right now, essentially, for the drivers in the TCR category. Remember, their window about lap 12 to lap 23, so we're coming around to lap number 12. I don't expect to see any of these drivers make that move into pit lane yet, unless you think you're caught up somewhere that you want to be able to get out of that pack, get some open air, and then see if you can't put some good lap times down. That may be something that Caleb Lavender would consider, because here he is running P2. As you said, was just turned the fast lap of the category as well. Lavender putting all this pressure on Violette. Does he think he can make a move, or do you peel off to the pits early, come back in open traffic, open air, and then see if you can't put the laps down, and then kind of leapfrog over him when Violette decides to come to pit lane? What's your thought on that?
It's gonna be interesting. I don't know, Rob. It's gonna be tough because meantime we have also information that the 71 car will get a drive-through penalty, so Clint Weibus will have to go through the pits in the next 3 laps.
Yeah.
Coming back to that, Rob, for sure the traffic is gonna take a big part in this. We still have plenty of free track for the leaders in GT4, so I think till these TCR cars will not be hit by the mid-pack portion of the GT4 class, they will stay out because they don't want to be caught in a lot of passing and fights with the other category, which probably is also faster. So it's gonna be interesting. To be fair, I have no idea what I would do if I was in this race. It's this track is really difficult, also for the cruise ships.
It is. I totally agree. And we saw it at Daytona. The drivers, of course, taking much different approaches. Mike Dam coming in very early. Aeronam waiting till later in the race. DJ Alessandrini did the same thing. He was essentially following along the footsteps. Oh, driver spinning. That's right in front of the TCR field. One of the drivers went around. Cameron Martineau spinning. I want to say that was over in turn number 12, potentially, right in front of the TCR field. Greg Brockway now, one of the GT4 drivers in the Porsche, right in front of our TCR leader, Eric Violette. And you can see the drivers up front there, one of the BMWs as well, another one of the Porsches. I believe that up front there would be Russ Ruddick in the BMW, and Matthew Gosch is up a little further. This is interesting right now. That Porsche, Alessandro, peeling to the side, the right side of the track, coming out of turn number 1, making room for the TCR cars coming through. It is time to start working our way through some of the slower GT4 categories, and look at the front-running TCR cars. 5 drivers locked together. Violette, Lavender, Whitworth, List, and Warner separated about 1.8 seconds.
Great sportsmanship by the 62 of Greg Brockway, giving way to the TCR field, even though it's still for position, so compliments to the driver of the 62 car there. Meantime, still traffic. We have a BMW right in front. It's Russ Raddock in the 95 for Eric Violette. So it's gonna be interesting how they will approach this traffic. They are not really faster than these cars, but the GT4s have more straight line speed than the TCR, so it's gonna be interesting as the 95 is pulling now over to let them by entering the pits.
Yeah, Russ Ruddick will pull the BMW M4 down to pit lane. So again, as I had said, we had come into the pit window for the drivers in the TCR class. Here on lap 13, now the very front of the pit window as well for those competitors in GT4. So we've got ourselves probably about an 11-lap window now for the drivers. You can come in early now and, of course, not have to fill up fully on fuel, but you'll top it right back to the very top. Again, the stops at the same time, whether you pit early or pit late. It all depends on how much fuel is going in. But we've seen the drivers coming in already. They're closing up. Actually, this is the battle right now for 4th. This is Jewell. This is Jared Jewell, the fastest driver we have in the BMW car here so far. He's got Paul Gibson closing up a little behind him. Cameron Bidwell as well. A little further back there's Travis Schwenke. So this is the fight for 4th, 5th, 6th, and eventually 7th is Schwenke a little further back. Paul Gibson starting to put some pressure on Jared Jewell here for P4 now, Alessandro.
Yeah, indeed. Definitely now is the time to try to make a pass if you have more speed. They have to start thinking about getting by people right now, because seems they have still some clean track in front, so they can try to pull away, as we are seeing even more people now entering pit road. We have Clint Vigos, might be serving his drive-through penalty, Steve Daniel, last time by also Def Jacobs, Robert Hartley and Kevin Ford came down pit road. I don't know if they had some damage, as we see plenty of drivers also missing their mirrors on their cars, sign of people just scraping lightly the wall or hitting the wall. So these cars definitely are under big pressure, and the also the machine is gonna be really hard to keep on the track for 60 minutes.
We had a little bit of a change, Alessandro, up front at one point, as Mike Dam had lost the second position to Elvis Rankin. Rankin's actually moved to pit lane, so the first of the front-running drivers here, the top three drivers in GT4, has made his run early in the stint here to pit lane. Elvis Rankin, we'll see what kind of a stop he's able to knock in. On board here right now with Paul Gibson in the number 304. You see him really working his way out of turn number one, trying to close up in here onto Jared Jewell. The in-car camera give you such a great shot of the actual visual of running here at Belle Isle in Detroit. Not like some of the other circuits they'll run. Of course, the temporary circuit here lined all around. You see the tires on the outside of turn number two, concrete walls everywhere. There is some curbing on the inside. You'll see some grass there, but the exit, Alessandro, is not forgiving. You make a mistake here and get a little bit wide, you're going to find yourself in the wall. You tap the rear of the car. We saw a lot of that in the Classic Sprint Series event here a couple of weeks ago, when drivers got a little too wide coming out of some of the corners, tapped the left rear or the right rear, either went around or gave themselves significant damage. This is a track, if you make that mistake, if you lose focus for even one moment, you could change your entire storyline.
Yeah, indeed, as we see the 413 right in front of Paul Gibson going a little bit wide. This is a very tough track for both the car and the drivers, because there is not a single turn where you can just take it easy, relax, because every corner hides some treacherous situation, and if you just miss your apex by a tiny margin, you might hit the wall, and any little damage with this damage model we have on these cars is costing you speed and sometimes also some handling. So for sure it's gonna be key for 60 minutes to keep the car in one piece and avoid any wall around this tough track. Shiflett is now on pit road from the top 10.
Indeed, when we were on board there with Paul Gibson, we could see a little bit of an early apex for Jared Jewell in the BMW, and the car pushed wide in turn number 7. Had to get off a little bit, put a bunch of wheel in it, and that allowed Gibson to close right back up. Wasn't able to capitalize with an overtaking opportunity, but still keeping the pressure up, and he knows now that he is putting enough pressure on Jewell to potentially make a mistake. Got some smoke coming in here like a driver has potentially gone around. That's off the racetrack in that particular part of the track. But again, watching this fight here, have another look here at Tyler Vickery. Yeah, he made major contact on the outside of the wall there. Big damage to the right front of that TCR driver. That's Vickery. Indeed, he pulls off the round. I was going to say pulled off the racetrack, but Alessandro just nailed it straight into the tires.
Yeah, he definitely didn't kiss the wall there. He smacked it really hard. The TCR can definitely take a big hit, but that was definitely too much. As we are now back in our TCR field, where we have still 5 cars running really close, even though Whitworth now in third position is opening a tiny bit of gap on Andrew List in the 61. It's just a 1.4 seconds, so they are still very close, but any little gap with slipstream and traffic can and could be the decisive moment of the race.
Indeed, none of these drivers are headed to pit lane either. Eric Violette in the number 89 leading the way. Good shot here, this battle. Caleb Lavender, we talked about the issues at Daytona, so he's thinking about recovery at this point. And you look at some of the drivers he's battling with. 6th place in TCR, Henderson Knox was the winner at Daytona, comes in as the point leader. Matthew Warner right in front of him, P5. So this would allow Lavender to kind of close back up a little bit. We talked about Violette as well, coming in 11th in points. He and Lavender 11th and 12th respectively. So indeed, the drivers running first and second looking indeed at clawing back some points here for round number 2. But a long way to go, as we said. The next event set for June the 29th, a couple of weeks from now still, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, California. That beautiful, iconic racetrack, the Corkscrew, one of the most famous corners, if not the most famous corner in North American motorsports. And again, watching the drivers here in the TCR category as Lavender putting all this pressure here on Violette. Closing in on the halfway point, round number 2 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Proforma Elite Texas Graphic. My name is Rob Howden, joined by Alessandro Dalladone and Dennis Branch handling the cameras here today. What a battle right now further back. This is 4th and 5th, Alessandro. Good scrap right now between Andrew List and Matthew Warner. List pushing hard. Warner, though, filling the mirrors every corner.
Yeah, you really have to ask yourself now, do I really want to fight really hard for this 4th position, or do we want to try to work a bit together and catch up to the guys in front? Obviously depends on the pace you have on your with your car right now, as we see these drivers really hitting hard the curbs and cutting the corner there as much as they can to keep momentum through the corner. It's gonna be interesting, and these battles probably will last all race long, as instead in GT4 I think Aeronome has pulled up a very sizable margin on Mike Dam, as I was seeing on our track map. Now you can see the field is completely spread out throughout all the track. The 78 car, the sole European driver in this 46 car grid, putting a 8-second gap on Mike Dam, as Elvis Rankin, previously in 3rd position, took his pit stop last lap.
Yeah, Elvis Rankin currently running in the 9th position, as Alessandro said, has already took service on pit lane, got in and out cleanly, running P9. And we'll see how things cycle out for him. But indeed, a massive lead, almost 8 seconds right now for Aeronome. Looking at his fast lap time, a 136.77. Not quite as quick as Mike Dam, a 136.55. That's the current fastest lap of the race so far. Mike Dam running in that 2nd spot. But here we go, a number of drivers coming to pit lane. One of them, the 301 of Paul Gibson. I believe the 156 into pit lane as well, Cameron Bidwell. So a number of drivers, you can see pit lane kind of heating up a little bit here, getting a little more busy as the drivers working their way into pit lane. Folks, we are right here at the halfway point of what will be a 60-minute race, round number 2 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Stay with us. More to come after the break here on Apex Racing TV. back live from Belle in Detroit, Michigan, right on the Canadian-U.S. border, the Ontario city of Windsor, just across the river, for the second round of the Ricmotech Racing Simulator Sports Car Series presented by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. A tremendous battle here on this 2.35-mile temporary circuit that plays host to IndyCar and IMSA each and every year, though not this year. An odd season, of course, the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic shutting down much of the, essentially all of the motorsports action around the world. Things starting to get rolling in the real-life competition, but the great deal about iRacing is it really has stepped things up and provided such entertainment and competition for many of the professional drivers and different professional series as well. And the beauty of this, Alessandro, is a lot of people that maybe didn't get a chance to see what iRacing is all about. They really got kind of thrown into the deep end. And I think we're going to see a lot more drivers getting a chance to race. And I know personally myself, I've really enjoyed being able to jump into the commentary booth with you here in the Ricmotech series, because there are, there obviously are drivers that run real life racing, and there are pros and absolutely dedicated drivers in the sim racing world, the iRacing world as well. And I have so much respect for the drivers who spend time making sure their cars are perfect and making sure that they're ready to go, whether it's race strategies or how to handle a particular car like the new BMW here. I just have a lot of respect for people that focus and are passionate about being the best they can here in the sim world.
Yeah, indeed, Rob. This is totally correct, as we see a car standing on the outside road, on the access road, going wide. These few months have been tough for everybody, and for sure also at iRacing they have been working like crazy, and they provided us with plenty of new content, as this beautiful BMW we are seeing right now. So these months have been incredible. I never thought I would be here with you commentating this race. Without this special situation, I probably would be completely elsewhere in the world. But we are definitely having a lot of fun here, and even this tough time, we always find something to cheer on and have fun. As we are seeing now, the 68 of Tony Chow in the fifth position for the Grid Life iRacers Porsche. We've seen plenty of drivers hitting pit road, as Aeronom also went down pit road on lap 20, Mike Dem on lap 19 while we had our little break, and also just coming back from our ad, we also had a spin for Travis Schwenke, one of our front runners in the Ricmotech Championship, now down in 17th place, even though the pit cycle has still to finish. As we see here, plenty drivers still hitting the short pit road here at Belle.
I was going to say, Alessandro, if you look at the scoring tower left side of the screen, Jewel, one of the drivers, has not been in yet. Chow has not been in yet, because ranking, we expect to see him move his way up. And we're at the end of the window right now. These cars out here pushing it to the very end of our pit window. Lap 24, probably the max run and a full tank of fuel for drivers in GT4. Lap 23 for those in the TCR category. So everybody out there who has not pit is really pushing to the end. They better hope that they've been saving fuel, or they somehow have some extra fuel in the tank, because right now I think you're going to see more guys come to pit lane, and here they go. The entire front-running group in the TCR category peeling off. Violet, Whitworth, Lavender all coming into pit lane, as did Warner. So the top running quartet all into pit lane. You got to hit your marks. As you can see, a couple of drivers on top of each other. 47 total drivers in the field. We're sharing some pit spots here as well. And, of course, something you can do in iRacing, what we can't do in real-life racing. Got at least one spot there with two different cars on top of each other. But, indeed, everybody pulling out. Really good stop for Violet. Not such a great stop for Whitworth, I believe. Lavender right behind him. But a good stop there for Eric Violet, as he's able to pull probably, 7, 8, 9 car lengths. What a great stop. Great in, great out. But did he get enough fuel? That's the only thing we have to wonder. Did he get enough fuel packed into that Audi to be able to go the final run to the checkered flag?
Yeah, the big loser out of this pit cycle in the TCR field, Rob, is Andrew List in the 61 car. He was up top there till a few laps ago, and he pitted last time by. Now he's a few seconds behind the leader of the pack, Eric Violet. So definitely not a great pit stop for the 61 driver in the D2D Esport Audi.
Yeah, indeed. Not sure what happened there. Henderson Knox, your point leader, has not yet come to pit lane yet, so he's pushing to the very end for Henderson Knox. Again, that driver, I believe, will be coming into pit lane soon, the number 449 machine. Leader now in the TCR category. Having a look here at Matthew Warner in the number 46 Audi. Warner currently running in the 5th spot overall in the class. And again, we talked about List a little further back from him there. It's Warner, Ken Ladd, and Andrew List. That's the battle we're seeing right now for 5th position. But again, Henderson Knox finally coming to pit lane. Winner from Daytona. Ooh, little contact there. Getting aggressive. Ken Ladd, Alessandro, right to the inside, coming out of that inner loop section out of turn number 11.
Oh yeah, people are starting to get a bit impatient now as the leader of the TCR, Knox, is hitting now pit road. So now we will have the real situation displaying on your screen in just a few seconds with the top 6 already pitting and Knox exiting right now pit road. It is a very tricky pit exit, Rob, as we see someone hitting also the wall exiting the first S. Very tough corner, and obviously these drivers are pushing really hard.
Yeah, that was Andrew List. Got a little wide coming out of turn number 1 and tapped the right side of that Audi R3. And again, drivers, as you said, yeah, starting to get a little more aggressive here right now. And I want to get back and talk a little bit more about that tremendous in-lap and, of course, the pit stop for Eric Violet. He has a 1.7 second advantage, able to get out of the pits, in and out of the pits much quicker. And again, the only thing, he either did a tremendous job of it or maybe didn't get quite enough fuel. That's the only thing I'm worried about for Eric Violet. We're going to find out, though. We still have a long way to go, about 21 minutes remaining in this particular event. And as we see, normally not quite as long for the TCR cars, depending on what happens. And we could probably bring this up because it's happened before, Alessandro. With the 60-minute time limit, it kind of plays into wherever the leader is when he comes across the line. If he's able to just sneak through, if there's an opportunity to have one more lap, so that would give the TCR cars one full lap around. And hearing some of the history of the program here, we've had drivers that had just enough fuel probably to get to the end, but because the leader got under the line before or past the start-finish before the 60-minute or time limit wrapped up, everybody else had one more full lap, and we had some guys that had to come on to get fuel. So should be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, Aeronom with a strong 9-point, almost a full 10-second lead now in the GT category, GT4 category. Aeronom's going to be kind of the guy, depending on his pace, that will set how many laps we actually go today.
Yeah, indeed, it's going to be interesting, even though now on this track is for sure much easier to save some fuel, as we see the last few drivers hitting pit road. Randall McGrew in the 67 Porsche is entering from P6, as we have only just a few drivers still not doing their pit stop. Is Arthur Chan in the 50 car in 4th place, and Lucas Ford in the 76 are the only 2 drivers still staying out, running on fumes, I think, because they have really stretching it big time.
Yeah, based on the information that we were given in terms of how long you go on a full tank, we've got drivers that have pushed lap number 25 right now. So they, as Alessandro mentioned, must be running on fumes right now. Hopefully they'll be able to get their way back to pit lane. A little bit of debris on the racetrack there as, again, picking up the lead group here. Watching the drivers in this category up front, the battle for the lead in the TCR category. It's still Violet leading the way. Whitworth now running in second, I believe, in the number 42 machine. What happened to Caleb Lavender? He's dropped back a little bit. He's still third in class, but he's lost a bit of ground. There's Lavender further back there. They're working their way through one of the BMWs here now, but there's essentially first, second, and third. You can see the gap in the TCR class. They're trying to work their way by Lucas Ford in that number 76. Again, one of the drivers driving the newly released BMW M4. And watching, there's poor Whitworth getting caught up a little bit there by Ford. This is going to gift Eric Violette some open racetrack as Whitworth having fits trying to get by Ford, finally tucking to the inside as he works his way out at turn number 11, gets through, and you can be guaranteed that Lavender will want to take full advantage. But as you said, the BMW is a bit quicker in a straight line.
Yeah, great showing by these BMW drivers. Not a tough job, not an easy job, sorry, to bring the car home on this track with such a little notice of getting the car in the last week. Not a lot of time to practice. Definitely, really happy to see them fighting for their position, as Jared Jewell is the first BMW driver on track today in 6th position. So we're gonna have these last 17 minutes now here at Detroit with still plenty of fights going on, a very close battle all over both categories, even though Aeronom, as per usual, we have seen Robin, he is always trying to break away, and he's doing a very good job also today. We missed the point where he got that big gap, but I'm sure that he played out perfectly the strategy with traffic.
Yeah, pretty impressive run for Aeronom. He really does raise the bar for all the drivers to kind of step up to try to chase him down. I know that whatever lap time he's able to put down in the practice sessions that precede the races here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, he kind of lays that mark, what can you do? Aero's got this lap time to keep digging to try to find that time, because it can be done. And he's on screen now, the 78 of Aeronom, the only international driver in the field, as Alessandro has mentioned. Yeah, let's take an opportunity, Alessandro, to kind of work our way through the top 10 drivers of both of the categories right now. Aeronom in the 78, as we said, unbelievably impressive. I'll take the GT field here, and we'll pass over to TCR after that. Behind Aeronom, running in that second position, your point leader, Mike Dam. The victory, of course, at Daytona in the Cryptology Orange Racing Machines, pounded the curb coming into turn number 7. It's been a good run for him thus far, battled with Elvis Rankin early on and was able to use the pit stop and I think some of the lap traffic pitted at the right time to be able to pull away. So Mike Dam, the Canadian, running in the 3rd spot right now. Elvis Rankin, just 12 years of age, was the first driver to pit right at the very front of the pit window. So let's pick up Elvis Rankin. Of course, Elvis coming in 7th in points in the Momo number 54 machine, working his way through this double apex right-hander. And again, Elvis, just 12 years of age, as we said, just an absolutely impressive young man, and great to see what he's been able to do here on the iRacing platform. He currently runs in the 3rd spot, was part of the lead trio that pulled away early, but of course, running through lap traffic and using the pit stops has kind of separated those drivers here. They currently are separated by 15 seconds in total, a 1:39.044 last time by for Rankin. A little further back, we'll go to the driver currently running in the 4th position. That's Cameron Bidwell in the Camsoil Racing number 156. Great looking Porsche came in 718 there, and he's having a good run. Being chased pretty aggressively right now by the 301 of Paul Gibson. This is the battle for 4th. So it's Bidwell in that blue machine, the number 156. Right behind him, Paul Gibson. He's had a ton of TV time here today in the PG-13, number 301. The American putting a lot of pressure on from P5. Back to 6th position now, Jared Jewell holding the flag for the BMW contingent at Belle Isle here today. Currently running in the 6th spot, ran as high as I believe 4th before the pit stops and had some open racetrack in front of him, although he does have Tyler Shiflett in the number 24 right behind him. Shiflett there putting a bunch of pressure on, a little Lightning McQueen replica car on that machine there for Shiflett, currently running, as I said, in the 7th spot, comes in P5 in the points after a good run at Daytona. Behind Shiflett, David Payton in the number 64. The Canadian has put some good pressure on every driver in front of him. Actually was able to work his way closer to the front in the D2D machine. Passed for 10th, before the pit stop, went to 9th, and now running 8th with the potential to work his way up to P6. So David Payton having a really good run here in Daytona so far. Top things off with Tony Chow in the number 68. He runs in 9th for Grid Life Racers. Got some track in front of him to potentially get up to that fight. And then the final driver in the top 10, Cameron Martineau in the number 39. Watching him roll his way through here right now. Martineau, again, one of the other Porsche cars, the 718 Caymans. Again, just the one BMW in that top 10. Jared Jewell, pretty good, solid battling midway through the field. Not so much for the lead now in GT4, Alessandro, but good run through the top 10 in the GT4 category led by Aeronam. I'll give you an opportunity to pick up the lead driver in our TCR class.
Yeah, indeed. Here we are with Eric Violet in the 89 D2D Esport Audi. Actually, really close to Aeronam. He's about to be lapped, put one lap down by the leader of this race. As you can see him right on the far end of the straight. This driver has been putting a great show today, Eric Violet. Great start, very consistent, but he's not done yet because right behind him we have Brandon Whitworth, teammate. But as we saw in Daytona, even between teammates there might be some issues, so you never know. But the driver of the 42 car is definitely doing a great job, and both drivers want to bounce back from maybe not so great experience in the opening round, so for sure they want to keep it clean as they are now. You see a great slide by the 42 with the leader overall, Aeronam, in the Bushpin car right behind him. Third place is Caleb John Lavender in the 9 car. Caleb doing a great drive today. He's been fast in also in the GT3 Audi car. He loves Audi, probably. And he's doing a great job here in third place. He lost a bit of time during the pit cycle, but still consistency is what matters in this championship. He didn't do really well in Daytona. He still brought home a decent chunk of points, but third place is what he needs to make the season start in a better way. Now we can jump on Kane Led in the 4th position, driver of the 49 Maverick Motorsport car. He's been very solid this race. Jumped a few positions also from the start. He jumped 4 positions in the TCR field, starting from 8th. Ken obviously didn't have a great start in Daytona, so a top 5 is definitely a result he wants to work on and possibly improve also in the final part of the race. With Andrew List, maybe one of the disappointment these races for the TCR field. He did a great start, but he fell off with his pace, and also the strategy hasn't been paying off really well for him, and now he's sitting in a 5th place, which is definitely not a place he wants to be, considering these teammates in D2D Esports are 1-2 right now. 6th place for Chet Parker in the 27. D2D Esports showing plenty of cars in the TCR field today. He's 16 seconds behind. Definitely can try to pass Andrew List, but for sure a solid result for Parker, who didn't have a great race in Daytona, ending in 11th. Then following we have Matthew Warner in the 046. Podium for him in Daytona, but today probably struggling a little bit around here in Detroit. His race is not over. He can for sure try to get a better position by the end. You never give up around this track. As Bobby Childs in 8th position in the 88. Bobby had a great showing in Daytona. Today we haven't seen him up front, but he had a solid race, no mistakes, and 8th place for him. Right behind him, Anderson Knox, the race winner of the opening round. in the 449 Sunshine Autos. And rounding up our top 10 is Edgar Sanchinelli in the 57. Solid run also for the drivers of Frito Sport Racing Yellow, rounding up our top 10 for today's event with only 8 minutes left.
Alessandro, interesting going through the TCR field, and I think even though this is only the second round of what will be a 10-round series here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, drivers who showed very well at Daytona, those drivers up on the podium, Henderson Knox, Matthew Warner being the primary guys, first and second. Those drivers not having the best runs here today, so it's really going to kind of open things up right now because Henderson Knox running in 9th position, Matthew Warner in 7th. The drivers that finished further back with issues at Daytona, like Caleb Lavender, they're finding themselves with the opportunity to kind of get themselves back forward. So when we end up heading to Laguna Seca for round number 3, this should be really interesting because I think we'll see the championship battle tighten aggressively. On track right now, though, with just, what are we at, about 7 minutes remaining. A good battle here for P4 in the category right now. Cameron Bidwell and Paul Gibson going at it. We've had a lot of camera time for Paul Gibson because he has worked his way up nicely. Fell back a bit, but then got himself back up. Started 6th. I think he fell back as far as 9th, but has been able to continue to scrap now in the middle of a great fight here with Cameron Bidwell for P4.
Yeah, great battle here in these closing stages of today's event. We used to see the BMW around 4th position throughout this race, but fell off a bit, and Jewel now is sitting in P7. Cameron Bidwell definitely took chances and moved up till 4th place. Now fighting with Gibson. They essentially fought for all the race long. They've been always very close, even though they didn't really engage a proper battle. But they are giving us a great show, and hopefully in the last few laps we will see some passes going on this twisty section, which is I'm really surprised, Rob, to be fair, how clean the race has been. The drivers have been putting a great show. Obviously this car is not this car and track combo is not definitely helping us with overtakes because the cars are very even, as we see some side-by-side racing as Gibson almost pulled the side-by-side, but he backed out and made sure to stay in line because these two drivers don't want to jeopardize an effort and bring home a top 5, which is on these conditions and this difficult track a very, very solid result.
Yeah, Gibson putting a lot of pressure on Cameron Bidwell. As you said, we're on board with Paul right now in the number 301. He's had, a good run, putting some pressure on a lot of drivers. He's trying to force Bidwell into a mistake as we're coming into the final 5 minutes of the event here at Belle Isle. Of course, the facility, the track, temporary circuit that hosts the NTT IndyCar Series. Normally, the week after the Indianapolis 500, that's all going to change this year. Of course, the Indy 500 not running its traditional Memorial Day weekend dates. Let's have another look here, watching Jared Jewell in that number 413. Of course, Jewell is the driver in the BMW. Ooh. I'll let you call it, Alessandro.
Yeah, Jewell was really, really close, and we have contact. As here, we have still some contact with drivers coming back. We have the 64, the 24, and the 413 having issues there. So we see Jacob Beasley in the 154 gaining a lot of positions. Very unfortunate because the drivers were very, very close, and just a little tap by Jewell sent the Porsche onto the outside wall. And once you lose the control of these cars, it's really, really difficult to get it back. So rather unfortunate, some racing incidents. I guess for sure a race controller is gonna have a look at that. But on this track, when there is a mistake, it's very, very costly, Rob.
Tremendous move there for Paul Gibson as he's able to go around the outside of Cameron Bidwell. Made a move coming out of turn number 6, was able to set him up to go to the outside of turn 7, swept from driver's left to right across the bow. You can book that one. He goes now into P4. So the move forward for Paul Gibson in his machine continuing, as he has now gone to 4th, moving Bidwell down into 5th. We're coming into the final 3 minutes of the race here again. Drivers working their way through turn 1 and 2 once again. You can see up in front of Gibson now, 3 of the drivers in the TCR category. I think a couple that potentially, are they in the lead group as well? I'm not sure whether that's, no, that's a little further back in the order. That's Bobby Childs and Henderson Knox. So that is 8th and 9th in the TCR category, just ahead of our drivers battling for 4th. And again, Paul Gibson finally able to work his way around. And I'd said Alessandro before, putting the pressure on, trying to see if he can't force Bidwell into mistake, but that didn't happen. He just got a really good run out of turn number 6, put together a good combination of corners 4, 5, 6, got the run he needed out of 6, and was able to complete the pass by the time they got down into the braking zone of turn number 7. Having a look now at the battle here. This is this fight for TCR 1st and 2nd. They've got themselves one of the drivers in GT4 in front of them that could make things pretty interesting here. But this is the battle with just over 2 minutes remaining between Eric Violette and Brandon Whitworth. And again, the one thing I was worried about, because it was such a good stop for Violette, did he get enough fuel into that Audi? Will he be able to go the distance, or did he make a mistake? If indeed he put enough fuel in, it was the best stop of the top 3 drivers when they did come into pit lane, and he is setting himself up to potentially go for his first win of Season 1 of this sports car series. Good battle here in TCR.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to see it next time by, if the drivers will get their white flag at the start-finish. Aeronom is right now mid through his 36th lap, and as he will cross the line, he will get the white flag from our flagman. So 2 laps to go for this TCR. Cars, Whitworth obviously is gonna try his best to go through Violet, but I think they do not want to risk it too much, because you don't want to crash your teammate having issues on the last lap. This could bring a big storyline throughout the championship. You don't want it.
Look at the pressure, though. Brandon Whitworth, both these drivers, of course, trying to score their first victories here in this new sports car series. Of course, the sports car series used to have the Ford Mustang and the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. They moved that to the new Classic Sprint series. We've had a couple of races. It's been fun to watch the Classic guys get back at it again. This is the new sports car series with the Porsche 918 Cayman and the BMW M4, and of course the TCR, this Audi R3. And what a battle after 60 minutes worth of action. They're going to come across the line. Final lap in the scrap here for the win in TCR. Aeronom with a massive lead out front, but we continue to put our focus on this battle. Alessandro, final lap for the drivers in TCR. Violette leading Whitworth.
Yeah, slower traffic also in front. This could play a big part in this final lap. Let's see if that Porsche will move out of the way for the leading duo. Still, Whitworth too far. 0.5 of a second behind Violet. I don't think he will have time to pull out an attack on the right-hander coming towards the final of the back straight, as we are now following Aeronom just a bit in front of them, going through the fountain section with a sizable margin on Mike Dam. A great race by the Team Bushwing driver. A gap that, to be fair, I couldn't imagine at the start being the pace so even between Nom, Dem and Ranking. But he did a great strategy, great consistency, and now he is gonna take the checker flag.
Yeah, it looks like there was no pass for the back for that category. Coming around for the final time. Checker flag will fly, and Aeronom scoring the win In the GT4 category, the victory goes to Nam, and again, the point lead is going to be very interesting. Here comes Mike Dam to grab that second position. We expect a potential battle between the drivers, Eric Violette and Whitworth. I don't think it came down to it. I believe that's the way they finished. Elvis Rankin in the 54 coming home in third. That's going to move him up the point standings for sure. He was seventh coming into the race. He'll move his way up, no doubt about it. Fourth place driver coming here, Paul Gibson in the number 304. Great run for Gibson. He'll come through the final corners, turn 14, cross the stripe. Solid drive into a lot of battles throughout the day. And again, capping off the top five is Cameron Bidwell. Eric Violette ends up getting the victory, holding off Brandon Whitworth in the TCR class. The only real shot for Whitworth was getting a good run out of turn number 6. He did not get that done. Wasn't able to make the move down into turn number 7, which was really his final opportunity, I think, to make the pass before they went into the fountain section, which is turn 7 to turn number 11. Drivers are on their cool down lap right now, but there is your winner. D2D getting first and second with Eric Violette and Caleb Lavender, and of course Aeronam in the number 78, cruising his way around here as well. Tremendous drive for Aeronam as he gets yet another victory in that Team Bushfink machine. Alessandro, what a great event. We saw a lot of tremendous battles all the way through the field. And not surprisingly, Aeronam putting on a show, going out front. Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin, we knew they'd be in the fight as well. But I think the TCR category is one that I thought was going to be a bit closer. I thought we'd see 4 or 5 drivers in the front. But it was a great pit stop for Eric Violette that allowed him to pull out into that decent lead and then hold off Whitworth through to the checkered flag. So again, drivers wrapping things up here to cap off the event. We'll let them get their way back to pit lane, and we'll do what we can to bring a number of our drivers up here into the commentary booth for you. Get a couple of interviews. Again, things changing pretty aggressively in the championship points for the TCR category. Henderson Knox, let's see where he ends up finishing in the event. Henderson 10th overall in the TCR category. And again, Matthew Warner in the 8th spot. So again, it'll kind of change things up a little bit as drivers that were further down in the field, like Caleb Lavender, going to be able to make that big jump. Brandon Whitworth was 5th coming into the championship here. Getting a second place finish will be massive for him as well. Eric Violette back down in 12th position. He'll jump up in a big way. Alessandro, if you're back with us, a lot of championship movement after the race here in Detroit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Today we had a big shake-up in the standings. But Rob, you know that Daytona is wherever we are in different championship we are covering on Apex Racing TV. It's always a particular track where results can vary. It's a bit of luck, a bit of strategy. Then we come here at Detroit, a totally different track. Obviously, the standings will look definitely very, very different from what we had 2 hours ago.
Yeah, and that's any race we go to, right? Especially one so different here. The facility, of course, the venue, the temporary circuit here on Belle Isle, Detroit, a much different racetrack than what we saw at Daytona. And you always see certain drivers kind of step up in terms of what you have for that track. Some drivers are going to be fantastic at a track like Daytona. Others are going to be better when we go down the order at a track like Watkins Glen or potentially Lime Rock. And some drivers, of course, stepping things up when we're on a track lined by concrete barriers like we have here in Detroit. We're going to see what we can do. Drivers have worked their way back into the pit lane or down to start-finish. The victors both parking their cars at start-finish line. Of course, Aeronam scoring the win in the GT4 category. Eric Violette, the victor in TCR. We'll see if we can't get those drivers to join us here in the commentary booth before we sign off and wrap things up here on Apex Racing TV. We'll take the opportunity at the end of the broadcast to do a little preview for the next round of the series. Again, season 1 of this sports car series brought to you by Ricmotech and Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. And again, it's been tremendous to see the debut of the BMW M4 and the new update from iRacing. The program organizers here getting that car right on into the sports car series. We saw a number of drivers running the BMW. The fast top running driver, I believe, Jeff Jacobs, finishing in, I think, the 11th spot overall. And again, getting set to talk to our race winners. Aero Nam, I think, standing by here momentarily. We'll grab him here when we can. Otherwise, overall, a really solid race. We saw drivers kind of step to the forefront, like an Aero Nam, able to pull away, putting in all the work he had to do to work his way forward. I know Alessandro's doing what he can to get Aero to come join us.
Okay. Struggling a little bit with bringing drivers back up to our booth. Some live issues, unfortunately.
Alessandro,
let's see if we can get a little bit of help from.
Alessandro, it's one of the challenges, right? You know, when I'm on pit lane with IndyCar Radio, as soon as the guy gets out of the car, you just throw the microphone in his face. There are a lot of different challenges when you're calling these races in iRacing because people obviously aren't trackside. We're here in TeamSpeak, and we've got to grab guys and bring them up, and it makes it very interesting. And that's been a challenge for sure. And Alessandro doing what he can. We got a number of drivers starting to set themselves up in what they call the tech room right now. We'll bring them in when we can, but drivers finally starting to come in and get set up to join us here in the commentary booth. Alessandro, if you've got anybody there we can bring in. I see a number of drivers in the tech room, potentially able to bring them in here.
Yes, trying to solve the issues.
User joined your channel.
So there we go. We finally have our first driver to come and join us here right now. He was dominant in the headline GT4 category. Aero Nam, congratulations on a tremendous run today on what is a very challenging circuit here in Detroit. Seems to me like a pretty clean run for you. Were there any issues whatsoever throughout the 60-minute race?
No, not really. It's just very, very difficult zone working, not to hit balls. So yeah, very, very stressful race.
Let's talk about the difference of the track as well. Of course, Daytona, that more an open track up on the banking. What's the biggest challenge for you at a temporary circuit here, a concrete line track like Detroit? What's the biggest challenge you have to overcome?
Not hit the ball. The car changed a bit over this season, so it's very understeering.
Your pit stop strategy, was it something that you had set from the very beginning, or were you kind of potentially playing off what Mike Dam or what Elvis Rankin would do?
Yeah, not many plans. Just was watching where they on the track, so I knew how much time I would lose on the pit stop. So, and that Mike went to the pit, so and I had like 4 or 5 cars in front of me, so that was the time to pit.
Well, a tremendous run for you, and again, a good strategy call as always from your side, your crew. You finished second at Daytona. A win here is going to make things very tight going into the next event here in the Sports Car Series. We're looking forward to Laguna. What are your thoughts on heading to that particular track?
I don't know. Very slippery track again, so yeah, not many places to pass. The TCRs again will be fast. I think it will be difficult.
Yeah, it's a tough racetrack to pass on for sure. Real life in iRacing, indeed. Aero, any opportunity to thank anybody right now?
I'd like to thank all the drivers today. The traffic was okay. Almost perfect, I have to say. So all the drivers and all the league admins and sponsors and the guys in the booth.
Well, congratulations on another great run, folks. Aero Nam, definitely one of the guys that sets the benchmark for those in this particular program. Comes away with a tremendous victory and put himself right back in the championship fight after a second-place run at Daytona. Alessandro, let's see who we've got next to potentially bring up here into the commentary booth. I know a lot of drivers standing by, and ideally we'll get someone in to talk to as well.
User left your channel.
So Aero's been able to head back to pit lane, back to his car, back to his rig, and Alessandro doing what he can to bring someone back in. And we'll let Alessandro have the next interview. We have drivers standing by in the sidelines I can see. Brandon Whitworth, Elvis Rankin, Mike Dam, Eric Violette, all waiting to come in here. And away we go. We've had some great racing, as I said. Aero Nam with a tremendous win in the GT4 category. What a race, folks, for the TCR category. Alessandro Dalladone standing by with Eric Violette.
Yeah, indeed. Eric did an amazing job today in the TCR field in its 89 car, starting second. Talk us through the race. You did a great start, and then the gap narrowed down, and you had a fabulous finish.
Yeah, I have to talk to Jim. I went a little wide there in turn 2, and I'm not sure if he wasn't my teammate how that would have ended. So I was thankful that I wasn't in the wall, and I saw him in my mirror afterwards. So yeah, traffic wasn't too bad. Caught a couple of the back markers, and got a little worried that Brandon was going to get me or Caleb there. They were having a good battle behind me, and I think Caleb smacked the wall once. So I'm not sure how much damage he got and let me kind of get away there. But the two of them were definitely faster than me. It's just so hard to pass here. I had to just run a semi-defensive line there and make sure I wasn't blocking or anything like that. But yeah, the two of them were just a tick faster.
Yeah, for sure. This car is very, very big, and going side by side is definitely not helping you, because we saw also Brandon, Caleb, and all the guys behind you struggling when they were side by side, especially in the first 15-20 minutes of the race. You got that gap that eventually then later narrowed down. Did you take tires at your pit stop? We knew that TCR might be changing front tires.
No, they changed the tires either this morning or last night, and so we'd all done our setups, and I was planning on running a really conservative set and being able to not take tires and save the 10 seconds on the change. But then when they did the new tire, or reverted the tire model, I figured you got to make a fast setup, and it was not about a conservative setup anymore. It's trying to get the thing as fast as you can, because I knew nobody was going to be taking tires. The tires were just, I think we were only like 85% halfway through the race.
Oh, great insight, especially also this update, changing things up for you guys last minute with reverting to the old Season 2 build tires. Anybody you want to thank, Eric, before we let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. The admins here at Extreme Motorsports always did a good job. I'm not sure how how Ryan was doing there in the booth for the steward booth tonight. It looked like he was a little busy. There was some craziness. In fact, I had to come to a stop. I had a 5-second gap, and I think that went away when I had to stop and park it if someone was in front of me. You guys, Apex Racing TV, it's always a joy to watch this broadcast. Ricmotech for being our primary sponsor, and then Proforma Elite Texas Graphics sponsoring the league, and also they are the team sponsor for us. So if you need any swag, go ahead and go over to Proforma Elite Texas Graphics, and of course Nick's Dog Treats got him on the roof here. So thank you guys very much. It's a great race.
Thank you, Eric, and hope to see you back to our booth next time by in Laguna Seca.
Hey, the more I see you guys, the better.
Oh yeah, I think so.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Rob,
User left your
we
channel.
also have right with us Brandon Whitworth, P2 in the TCR class.
Hey, Brandon, good to have you up here. And again, as I think Eric said, it's always good when you're up here because it means you've done a decent job. Tremendous run for you guys out there. The TCR category was a ton of fun to watch. At 1.5 drivers kind of on top of each other, but it all settled down to you and Brandon. He was able to get a really strong pit stop and jump out, but you were able to claw him back in a little bit. Can you walk us through the kind of run from the pit stop on?
Yeah, well, my first problem was getting out of the pits because I spun the tires, and I was like, oh, that's going to slow me down some.
That would, yes.
But yeah, once I got out and got going again, I had some open space so I could start catching up to Eric. But you know, toward the end, both of us started having a battle with GT4 traffic, which was a little bit unexpected. But you know, you have to work with what you got, right? So, just like you were saying earlier, there's not a lot of room to pass here.
Yeah.
So I just kind of have to deal with it.
You put a lot of pressure on the last couple of laps. We were keen on the battle with TCR for the last really couple of minutes. That final lap, you got a pretty good run through 4, 5, and 6. We had to cut away to get Aeronom coming across pit, coming to the checkered flag. Were you able to get close at all coming down into turn number 7?
Yeah, I think I was within a tenth or two there at the end, but I just, the front tires were starting to give up. So
I hear you.
I just couldn't get any speed out of the corners.
Overall, was it kind of the expectation you had in terms of being able to come home to P2? Obviously, you're thinking about the championship. It's a long run. You finished 5th at Daytona. It's a good result for you here to move you closer to the top of the charts heading to Laguna. Was this kind of expected, or were you happy with finishing 2nd?
I'm content with 2nd.
All right, I like that.
I'm not happy because I didn't win.
There it is. Good stuff. Well, Brandon, man, I'll tell you, a couple of good finishes to start the season off. It's a long campaign, as we know, 10 rounds, long way to go till you get there in mid-December. So lots of racing still to come. Yeah, obviously, you guys put together a good group of guys. Who do you want to thank for helping you get this P2 today?
Well, we got to thank Proforma Elite Texas Graphics for helping us get out there and do it. Ricmotech, you can't beat their equipment. It's good stuff. And of course, Nick's Dog Treats.
Well, Brandon, we appreciate it. Pretty good run for you guys up front. P2 today, P5 in Daytona. We look forward to seeing you at Laguna Seca in a couple of weeks.
I hope to see you there too.
So, Alessandro, great run there for Brandon Whitworth. He ends up coming home into P2, put everything he could at trying to get by Eric Violette at the end. But, we talked about it at the front of the broadcast as well. Tire management was going to be key, and sounds like everybody up front, obviously had to push hard to get there, but it sounds like the front tires were pretty used up by the time they got to the final laps.
Yeah, indeed. TCR tires, even though we had this beautiful insight where tires weren't really torn up, definitely will struggle in the last few laps. So he's definitely been a great show, and these two have been put in a great fight, even though obviously being teammate, they didn't want to jeopardize their effort, and in the end they brought a very solid result. But this might be the difference at the end of the season, making sure you get always your job done and keep your point scoring always to a very good rhythm, because it's still a long season, but you always need to score a lot of points every time. Otherwise, it's going to be tough.
The funny thing about Alessandro is that anytime early in the season, nobody really thinks about points to a certain extent. Later on in the program, when you get down, let's say the last couple of rounds, people start thinking back like, man, if I hadn't made that little mistake in round number 2 or round number 3 and it cost myself 3 or 4 spots, yeah, maybe I'd be in a battle for a championship right now. But you never know. Obviously, drivers think about it later in the season, but otherwise, overall, Alessandro, a tremendous run here at Detroit. Now, you and I move our focus into the next race that's coming up, Laguna Seca, on June the 29th. That tremendous racetrack, of course, in Monterey, California. Let's talk a little bit about round number 3 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, because Laguna Seca, a much different racetrack than the one we had here in Detroit.
Oh, yes, for sure. This is been a very tough track, a very narrow track. Laguna Seca is going to be difficult too, because there is not much space for mistakes, considering that we have a lot of runoff areas in gravel, and the track is going to become dirty and dirtier in the last minutes of the race. Definitely a different track, elevation changes, tough corners like a corkscrew. It's going to be interesting for sure.
One of the things I love about WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is that wide spectrum of corners. As you said, there's a lot of blind corners. A lot of course, tons of elevation changes, the undulating circuit, but the gravel, as you had said, the runoff here. You drop a wheel here, drop a wheel there, you stay on power, you can go around pretty quickly. Very much like Detroit, if you do make a mistake and do go off track. Of course, Detroit, you're into a wall. At Laguna Seca, you're off in the gravel, potentially going around. And that makes things very interesting. You mentioned a dirty racetrack. That's something that we always see over the length of a race. It's going to be a big challenge. And again, a track, because it's tough to pass on, means the drivers are going to struggle a little bit when they eventually try to make overtakes or try to get by lap traffic. Lap traffic, tire wear, the track itself, lots of different stuff will come into the storyline when we get to California.
Yeah, indeed. definitely a very, very interesting event in 3 weeks' time. I think, Rob, for tonight, we are done here in beautiful Detroit Belle Isle.
Yeah.
We will be back in 1 week time, right?
Indeed, back again next Monday. We continue with the Ricmotech program. Of course, there's the GT Challenge, the Classic Sprint Series, and the Sports Car Series, all part of this package with the Ricmotech Pro Forma Elite Texas Graphics sponsored programs. And as Alessandro said, folks, we are done from Belle Isle here in Detroit. Tremendous victory for Aero 9 as he outruns Mike Dam and Elvis Rankin to score the triumph in the GT4 category. And we were witness to a tremendous battle between Eric Violette and his teammate Brandon Whitworth for the TCR race win. Violette coming home with the big win. Good for him after finishing 12th at Daytona. Will definitely move both of those drivers up the championship standings. Again, as he said, Alessandro, we move now to the next event. June the 29th, a 60-minute race set to go for WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Should be a tremendous battle. Round 3 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. We want to thank you for joining us here on Apex Racing TV. On behalf of Alessandro Deladone and our producer, Dennis Branch, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.